If someone took away every title I've earned, every connection I've built, and every lesson learned in my years of pageantry, and I had to start over from scratch, what would I do differently? Now, today's episode is all about the 5 things that I would do if I was starting a pageant journey from scratch. So, whether you are new to pageantry or if you're a seasoned contestant who's feeling a little burnt out, this episode is going to save you thousands of dollars and hours of frustration trying to get it right. So let's go ahead and dig into the 5 things that I would do differently. And if this is your first time listening to the Crown Chasers podcast, I'm Jessica Alexander-Owens, founder of Crown Chasers Pageantry and the host of this podcast, Crown Chasers Podcast. And I have an exclusive invitation just for you. I recently started the Crown Chasers community. This is a free space for ambitious queens to come and connect, get development, and ask questions. I know that when you first enter into the pageant world, you may not know what to do. And this is a space for you to get a good foundation. So make sure you visit community.crownchaserspageantry.com to get started, or click the link in the show notes and we'll get you admitted today. Now, let's jump into today's episode. This is, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple or whatever, I'm also linking or trying to get into the YouTube space. So if you're watching this video on YouTube, this is one of my first times doing this. So I might look a little crazy. I may not know exactly where to look at the camera, but just know we're getting through this together. So the first thing that I would do if I was starting my pageant journey from day one, I would embrace my own personal style first. Now, when I first started competing, I remember my very first pageant. It was 2004. It was for Montgomery County Junior Miss, which is now Distinguished Young Women of America. I wore the prom dress that I wore to my junior prom. I know that they don't do long floor-length gowns anymore, but at the time they did. So I wore my prom dress, which was beautiful. This was before Princess and the Frog came out. And honestly, thinking about that gown, it would be like the perfect Tiana dress. But anyways, I had my micro braids in. I was a micro braid girly and I loved it. And I remember my interview outfit. It was something I grabbed from my mom's closet. It was this black suit with red pinstripes. My mom is a baddie. And then for fitness, we had an outfit that they provided for opening number. There was an outfit. And talent, I wore this one shoulder black and white gown that I got from Dillard's. I loved my wardrobe for that pageant. And, in retrospect, there's some things that could have been better, but I feel like in that moment, I was my most authentic self. I was that was in my zone. I was just shining on the stage. I didn't have any fear. I was really just excited to be there. And in that first moment, it's just, there's nothing that's going to compare to your first time on the stage, because I truly believe that's when you're bringing like your most real self to the stage before you start doing the editing of your hair and your makeup and your weight and your style and the way that you speak, because you are seeing other people win and it's not you. So you're trying to figure out how can you be more like a winner. And once you start competing over and over again, I have seen contestants who have refined and fully stepped into who they are. But on the opposite end and on the unfortunate end, I've seen many contestants, some who I've worked with, start to change who they are and not really like it because it's not what they wanted to show up as, but they believe that's what the judges want to see. That's what, excuse me, that's what the organization wants. So they do so much bending and contorting to look like what they think the organization wants, and they end up losing who they are in the process. And that is never a good thing. You have to be anchored in who you are as an individual. Now, I'll touch on this in a couple of other points. There is a big difference from like changing yourself and refining yourself. As you're on this pageant journey, you might say, there are things about me that I genuinely want to change. I want to change the fact that, I have poor eating habits and I want to be healthier and more fit because that's not what I traditionally do. And there's nothing wrong with that. You might say, you know what? I don't know how to articulate myself without coming across as timid or overly aggressive or overly eager to where people are able to engage with what I want to say and, want to hear and learn more. So there are things that you want to change. There are things that you might just need to refine. And there is a balance that you have to, that you have to deal with. But at the end of the day, trying to become someone else, like they say, be yourself, everyone else is taken. That is something that we can apply to the pageant journey, because it is too often that we are trying to become someone else. And that's a second rate version of that person instead of being a first rate baddie version of yourself. So instead of trying to emulate people, it is very important for you to embrace who you are and implement refining where necessary. All right. So stop trying to be someone you're not. I fell into the trap. It doesn't work. I won my first state title with a 2 inches of hair. Okay. And the next title I won was a natural hair title. So you can do this. You can be yourself. Now, the second thing is I would invest in coaching early. A big issue that I had when I first started doing these tweaks and changes for myself was that I actually had not sat down with anyone to get some insight. In fact, I didn't even know that pageant coaching was a thing when I first started. I didn't know that there were people who were professionals in the industry, who had years of experience, who understood the scoring, who understood what the organizations were looking for. I didn't have that insight. And because of that, I was trying to do everything on my own. And because of how I was at the time in my teens and early 20s, there wasn't much you could tell me anyway. So I was very resistant to any type of feedback when it came to my performance. So there were people who were subtly trying to, like, hey, have you tried a new gown? Or what do you think about, switching up your headshots to, make a better impression? You really couldn't tell me anything. So the first thing before we start seeking coaching is becoming coachable and understanding that there is someone who might have a little bit more insight than you. And there's someone who wants to champion your progress and your success and wants to partner with you along the way. And this coach is going to save you hours of time, is going to save you years of going back to the same stage over and over again and making minor tweaks instead of being able to make major leaps. Now y'all heard that rhyme. So it's very important that you're coachable, but invest in coaching. And not all coaches are created equally. There are coaches that have um, more strengths than others. I know if you were going to come to me and say, Jessica, as a coach, where do you feel like you are the most successful with your clients? I would definitely say platform development, interview. And then I'll also talk about community service and impact. Those are like my top three because I'm a speaker. I love speaking and I love helping pull out those refined responses and helping you dig deep into the why behind your answer to help you give more well-rounded responses, not only in the interview room, but also on your paperwork. I like making sure that you are successful outside of the stage as well as on the stage. I am able to offer a variety of services, but if someone's to say, Jessica, if I'm coming to you to give you my money, what would be the best way for me to spend it? It's definitely going to be interview, on stage question, platform development, community impact. I can definitely help you with styling. I can definitely help you with your talent development. I've won several talent awards on my journey in pageantry. But again, you might be looking for someone who is like a straight walking coach. I am great when it comes to stage presence, but there are some walking coaches who I know are much better than me on and they're like there are things, and especially depends on the pageant system that you're in as well. So that's something to consider when you are looking at a coach for many areas. There are some people who definitely are going to help you when it comes to, you know, the walk for that system. I wouldn't even feel confident, coaching someone who's going to do a Miss Grand type of pageant. If you wanted to come to me for walking for Miss Grand, like I would be like, there's someone else. I can point you in the direction of another coach. I can help you. But if you're like wanting to look like some of the girls that I've seen, I have not fully developed that skill set in my opinion. So I can help, like I can walk. Listen, I can walk, but teaching you how to walk that style is not necessarily something that I would say that I'm comfortable in, which is why I would say that if you are investing in coaching, to interview that coach also and understand what their strengths are and understand what your needs are and be able to combine the two together to make sure that you're successful. So invest in coaching, but make sure that you have the right coach, because not every coach is created equally. All right. Just like some coaches can walk, like, you know, giving Naomi, that is like my equivalent when it comes to interview. So make sure that you invest in coaching. The next thing is understand your pageant system. Now, I will say that I got it right when it came to my pageant systems. I knew that the pageant, well, I knew that Miss America organization was something that I wanted to pursue. They had talent, which was my strong point. So I wanted to compete in a pageant that had a talent component. And I think that it's important for you to look at these different areas of competition and say, what is going to give me the best opportunity to win? If you know that you're not the model type, that you don't want to compete anything that's like super glamorous, super makeup, then you wouldn't want to compete in something like Miss Grand or Miss USA or the Miss Universe organization, because that is not, they are looking for that type of girl. Especially now looking at the new scoring, they're looking at marketability as well. So if this is not something that you feel comfortable with doing or confident in doing, then you don't want to sign up for that pageant. It's so important for you to understand how many pageant organizations exist. I mean, come on. I'm sorry for like the pause, but just, one thing that I see is sometimes people are beating themselves up trying to win a specific pageant when you can glance over to your right to see another one that would be a perfect fit for you. You glance over to your left, there's another one that could be a perfect fit for you. And because you are so stuck on, I have to win this title for one reason or another, I'm not sure, sometimes there is a personal mission that you have. So I'm not going to say why you should or should not go after a title. However, what I am saying is that there are too many pageants out there for you to lock yourself in the box. And I'll give you a really good example of something I just saw. I'm a sponsor for the Miss Chicago pageant. I'm here in Illinois, and I have the opportunity to work with the girls one-on-one and also in a group setting. And one of the young ladies who competed in Miss Illinois Teen, she competed for the past couple of years. She is an incredibly impressive young woman. Her name is Carrie. And she's talented. She's beautiful, got a walk out of this world, and has a very, very strong platform. She has been featured, I believe, on Drew Barrymore. Like, she is that girl, in my opinion. If you're listening to this, Carrie, just know that I admire you so much. She is a teenager, and she is just so powerful and so passionate in what she does. And unfortunately, at Miss Illinois Teen, she did not win. I don't believe she made finals this year. And with someone who's that talented, and with someone, typically, you see that, okay, I'm competing, I've done well, I've won a couple of preliminary awards, I'll just go back. And that is many people's journey. I'm going to keep going back until I win. However, I want to encourage you to take a step back if you want to. Now, again, I understand there are some titles that are very coveted. Going to Miss America is always going to be an incredible opportunity that, most girls want to do. Getting on the Miss USA stage, getting on the Miss Universe stage. Those are our long-standing pageants that have reputations that go back decades. So I'm never going to say, give up on that type of dream. However, you have time and opportunity to explore. She's a teen. She's not aging out anytime soon. She can always go back to that stage. So back to the story. She competed in June. She did not win. she got an opportunity to compete in another pageant, Miss HBCU Junior Teen, which is directed and founded by a great associate that I admire him as well, Daryl, out in the DMV area. And she won. She won. And that is absolutely incredible. And I say that because that's a testament of the fact that you don't have to lock yourself into one system, that there are other opportunities waiting for you. So you might have a passion for one system, or you might age out and never capture that crown. That's how it was for me. I thought that after I aged out of the Miss America organization, that, my pageantry journey was coming to an end. And then I found out about the Miss Black USA system, and I applied, competed, I won. I placed top 15 at nationals. I won Miss Congeniality. And had I just been stuck on, well, this is my only opportunity, and if I don't get it, I might as well never compete again, then I wouldn't have had that opportunity, and I wouldn't be here sharing this information with you. So it's very important for you to understand that there's a pageant system for you. There's a crown with your name on it. All right. Now, that was a little bit of a rant. Let's go on to the next point, which is build your personal brand. Where do I start with this one? When I first won my first state title, Miss Black Alabama USA, I had some mindset things that I had to overcome. I was very concerned with being relatable. And I made a post about this the other day on Instagram, just talking about being relatable versus being aspirational. And I was so caught up on being relatable that I would oftentimes minimize what my title was. I would minimize that out of all the girls in the state of Alabama, I'm the only Miss Black Alabama USA. And it's up to you as a title holder to see the worth in your title, regardless of what is on the sash. Because at the end of the day, the opportunities are there for you. My phrase that I probably need to take to the trademark offices is that your crown will get you into rooms that your name will not. And as Miss Black Alabama USA, I was able to walk into so many rooms that Jessica could not walk into. I could not walk into somebody's school office and say, I want to talk to your students about accountability and community service and preparing for life as an adult. They'd be like, who are you? Dead serious. Do you think, honestly, if there was some random person that was just like, oh, I just wanted to talk to the kids, that they're going to be like, okay, sure. They're not going to do that. But for Miss Black Alabama, they will. Miss Black Alabama was able to walk into many rooms, many stages. My first time out, my first 2 months, I had 2 paid speaking engagements. Miss Black Alabama USA got me that, not Jessica. Not that Jessica wasn't skilled, not that Jessica wasn't worthy, but if you're going to pick between Jessica, no connections, no real network, not too much experience, versus Miss Black Alabama USA, I'm going to go with Miss Black Alabama USA. So what I need you to understand is that you have to leverage your title. You have to maximize your crown. And one of the most important and impactful questions I got before I started my journey was from my first coach and Miss Black Alabama USA 2011, Lene. And I remember her telling me, like, what do you want out of this experience? She's like, what do you want to gain from this experience? And it was something I needed to sit with, because in my mind, I was like, oh, it's all about service. It's all about making an impact. But at the end of the day, you have 1 year with this title that's going to open more doors than you probably even know. So what are you going to do with that? So think about the fact that you have long-term goals. You have long-term career goals. I'll say that again. You might want to step into a modeling type of space, or a beauty space, or a spokesperson space, or a correspondent, or anything. But your pageant title is a launching pad for that. And if you are so caught up on being humble, being relatable, being, oh, I'm just like everybody else, you're cutting yourself out of opportunities, and you're stopping yourself from being able to build something that's going to last beyond your pageant title. And that's something that I hope for every single person that I work with. If you worked with me, you know that's something I always ask. Like, what do you want to do after this is over with? If you want to work in legal fields, we got to get you connected with the legislators. We have to get you connected with some of the schools. If you want to be a speaker, why are we not setting up speaking engagements? Why don't we have a keynote prepared? Why don't we have a workshop prepared? Why aren't we pitching ourselves? If you want to work in the beauty space, why haven't you sent out your information to some of these beauty brands? It's going to be a lot of work if you want to get the results, but at the end of the day, you have to do it. So you have to build your personal brand. What do I want out of this experience? How am I going to use this pageant title to get me into the rooms that I can't step in as my name by itself? And it's okay to accept that. I used to also, I felt like hard work was so necessary. Like I had to work hard for it. I had to struggle for it in order for me to earn it. But at the end of the day, you earned your title and your title gives you access. So don't feel like everything has to be a fight, a challenge. And again, this was a mindset thing for me. You might not have that struggle, and I hope that you don't. But it's very important to embrace the title that you have and start building that brand. Start putting yourself in those rooms. Because once the moment's gone, it's gone. I mean, even as I'm speaking today, I speak from experience. I can think about so many opportunities missed simply of not me not fully recognizing who I was in that moment, fully not appreciating that I have the title, I have the access, I'm in the room already. To not second guess that, to fully embrace that. Okay? You're already in the room. Take advantage of it while you're there. Okay? And the last thing, don't measure your worth by the title. It's incredible to win a pageant. Let me tell you, there's nothing, well, there are many great things, but there is nothing like that moment, though, where you are holding hands with that other contestant and your name is the one that gets called. And the confetti drops or the music goes off and your name is plastered on the big screen and you're waving to the audience and everyone is standing and clapping for you. I love that moment. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to experience that moment multiple times. But it's not everything. It's not everything because you have to embrace this one small thought that I've always had, which is like sometimes losing is winning. Whether you get an opportunity to gain a fresh perspective, to get more insight on yourself, or to pursue other opportunities that you might not have been able to pursue because you were locked into that title. I remember when I lost Miss Black USA in 2014. I wasn't devastated. Of course, I wanted to win. I traveled all the way to DC to compete. I got me a brand new wardrobe. I was ready, but I didn't win. But I think about all the things that I was able to do and all the growth and development that I was able to have personally and professionally because I was able to go back to my home state and still continue to use that title to make an impact on my career. And it really got me started into pageantry and pageant coaching. From that moment, I moved into a director role, a state director role. And after 2 years of being a state director, where my first queen was top 15, and my second queen won, I stepped into a coaching platform where every single year after that, I had a client win. And here I am 10 years later after starting as a coach, still making an impact in pageantry, still having opportunities to be a speaker. I've authored my first book. I've done a national networking tour across the country 2 years in a row. I've moved to my dream city. And all of that started with, I owe pageantry to a lot of it, but pageantry opened the door for me. It gave me exposure to so many things. It gave me exposure to a network of incredible women. It inspired me. It empowered me. And whether I won or lost, I still feel like I won in the end because I'm here today. And if you're able to embrace who you are, and understand that you are not tied. Like, just because you lost doesn't mean that you're like a loser, doesn't mean that you don't have any value or any worth or anything to offer. And also, I'm not sure what anyone's spiritual practice is, but understand that everything happens on God's time, and that it everything will work out for you. You just have to have a certain level of patience and a certain level of tenacity, and you have to have the right perspective going into and leaving the situation. So if you walk into the situation only focused on winning, only focused on what, if I don't win, I'm nothing. If that's your perspective, then it's going to be very difficult to move forward. But if you go into the situation fully prepared, fully excited, fully embracing the results, whatever they are, and accepting that regardless of how they turn out, it doesn't stop you from being you. Doesn't stop you from being that girl. Doesn't stop you from making an impact. Doesn't stop you from being a purpose-filled woman. Then you are going to win at the end of the day. Perspective is everything, and understanding that the right perspective is knowing that the crown does not make you. You are already great. You're already wonderful. You're always already someone making an impact, and you still have work to do. The work doesn't stop whether you win or lose. So that is my encouragement for you all today. I want you to understand that the power that you have in pageantry and how incredible this opportunity is. And I really want you to ask yourself one real question. After sharing all this, what's stopping you from becoming that girl? What's stopping you from becoming the contestant that you want to be? And if you really are wanting to step into a space of being a title holder, or if you're wanting to refine or redefine how you've been coming to the stage, today's the perfect day to take the first step. And I want you to take your first step by joining the Crown Chasers community. This is a safe space for you to connect with other queens. I want you to work with Crown Chasers Pageantry, and let us help you take your pageant experience to the next level. And if this episode encouraged you or made you feel powerful, I want you to share this with another contestant. I want you to tag us on Instagram. Please share this on Instagram and tag us at Crown Chasers Pageantry. And then let me know, you can send me a DM. What's one thing that you would do differently if you could start your pageant journey over today? Let me know, and I'll share it with the community. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll see you next week for another episode.